Good evening, welcome to Resource PNG. Tonight we feature on the show interviews with landowners of the Moran oil fields in Southern Highlands, and we talk to ANZ. We also showcase a short report on the declining mineral commodity prices. But first we talk to Albert Mokai, former Premier of Southern Highlands Province and signatory to the MOA of the Moran Oil Fields Petroleum Development Licence 2, PDL2.
I have with me Albert Mokai, who was formerly Premier of Southern Highlands Province and a signatory to the PDL2 MOA. Albert, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Annie.
Albert, as the former Premier for Southern Highlands Province, what were your expectations when you signed the MOA for PDL2?
Well, it was the first of its kind. We had to have first oil project in the country. Kutubu oil was the first of its kind. We had a mining project, Bougainville, Oak Teddy, Pokera, and others came on the stream. But the whole oil project was the first of its kind for Southern Highlands Province, and I was a new premier coming in at the same time in 1990. So I was sworn in as a premier of Southern Highlands in July 10, 1990, and 5 months later, in December 10, 1990, we signed Kutubu Memorandum Agreement in Parliament House with national government. So I had to bring my landowners from Kutubu, both Fois and Fasos, to sign on the agreement. We had our positions incorporated into the agreement. We worked with the national government before those agreements formalized. Our sets of demands had to be incorporated so that national government and the resource developer can utilize those projects through their funding.
And what were your main expectations, or what did you think the impact of this would be?
Well, my province was the least developed province in Papua New Guinea. And we usually provide a labor force to the plantations in the coast and in some parts of our Highlands provinces like Eastern Highlands and Chimbu, to work in their coffee and tea plantations. So we never had any resource like agriculture projects in our province. Economy was very backward. People lived very rural life. We had few services which were put out by former colonial administration, which was struggling very hard. And I thought, if we allow this Kutubu project to develop, I thought we can bring a lot of services in through benefits we receive from it. So my interest was to develop Southern Highlands socially and economically. I wanted my people to be educated by fully utilizing resources or the financial resources that we receive from the Kutubu oil project.
So Albert, your expectations were obviously for your people, for the Southern Highlands people, and you've had the benefit of hindsight now. It's been 24 years since you were a party or signatory to that. Has it met, has signing that met the expectations that you have had of the resource royalties and the benefits that have been delivered?
I think for Kutubu people we have. I worked hard for my people to have their clans incorporated into IOGs. And that was done before the agreement was signed. I had to separate two major ethnic groups in Kutubu area. I cannot put them together under one roof. They have to, because culturally they live apart from each other.
Right.
So they're called FOIs and FASUs. FOIs need to have their own grouping, their own business, their own association groupings, and FASUs need to have their own way. So I had to deal with them. I brought every one of them to roundtable discussions. And I had to take the lead so that there is no misunderstanding, conflicting interest. Anything that goes wrong with the landowners, I would take the blame. So every time I had to go into the villages to make sure that they understand this big resource development, which will bring changes to their way of life.
More of this interview when we return. Welcome back. In the previous segment, we've heard about some of the landowners' expectations of the PDL2 MOA with former Southern Highlands Premier Albert Mokai. We now find out whether, at the time, the landowners' understanding of the multi-billion Kina project was the same as the former Premier.
Do you think that their understanding of the impact of this resource was the same as yours?
What they do, they are benefiting from the royalty payments. They receive the equity component of payments, which is distributed by the MRDC. Royalty payments distributed by the Department of Petroleum and Energy. So they also have what they call landowner associations. FOIs have their own associations. They call it Nama Aporo Association. And FASUs, they have their own association, they call it FASU Association. They also have their own umbrella companies. So they're working. Whatever happens to the association is their political interest.
Right.
But they're going to sort that out. But I have set the structure for them to work in. And I have established the ROG system. We spend the money. We made sure that our officers work with them and train them, that they manage their own welfare. So we did a little bit of a good job for Kutubu people. But other oil projects like Gobe and Moran came on later after I left the office. So I don't know what happened to them.
Now, Albert, when you say that it was beneficial to the Kutubu people, exactly what tangent benefits are we talking about?
Well, I'm talking about the flow of cash to their pockets.
Right.
The businesses that start to build up for themselves. Education level they're receiving. Health services they're able to receive. Those infrastructure we had to establish for them.
Right.
But it is up to the government at the provincial level to ensure that these smooth operations are good, kept clean alive.
Now, Albert, in hindsight, and you've had 24 years to reflect on it, did you ask for enough?
Well, I don't know what I was asking for when I started, but as I said, it was a new kind of resource development. We don't know what benefits come with it. But we only thought that there are the benefits like royalty equity and development levies and tax credit projects and PIP project would come on stream. But this is all highly technical. We need to have officers engaged that these things we agreed to in the agreement are reflected upon, and the parties which have signed to this agreement are complying with it. Example, national government. If it has to provide funding every year in its budget, it has to continue funding for one particular project. Example, Pimaka Health Center. That was built by the provincial government.
Right.
By using the funds coming from Kutubu project, oil project. And staff to work in the health center has to be provided by the provincial government. So it has to be funded under the agreement. And again, I don't know what's happening, whether the provincial government is keeping up with it, or they let it go back to the old way of letting people to suffer.
Right.
I don't know.
Albert, in your opinion, who holds the biggest responsibility in making sure that the benefits are delivered to the people?
Well, we have shared the responsibility between the state and provincial government. So anything that's happening at the provincial level is total responsibility of the provincial government to look after.
Albert, what about the responsibility of the landowners and the developer?
Well, landowners can only talk to the national or provincial government. We sign an agreement with them.
Right.
Developer does not have an agreement with the landowners. Developer is invited by the state to go into the area and develop the resources. We can make only a request, saying that if we need something tangible, we talk through our association, landowner organizations, present their papers, so make a request. And it's up to the developer whether they can assist or not. We cannot, well, many people misunderstand this. We got to know that we never have agreement with the developer.
Right.
We have an agreement with the state. We can take the state to court for any breach of the agreement. Developer has been invited by the state to go into our area to develop the resources. That's one thing that is missing. And that's one thing that landowners fail to understand.
Right.
I feel that it is, I don't know whether it's fair or unfair, to accuse the developer not fulfilling certain obligations.
Right.
But again, I said that landowners can only petition their government for negligence or for the breach of the agreement.
Right.
They have. If, for example, there is a destruction on the environment caused by the operation of the project, we know there are certain the authorities in the government who looks after the environmental side. Mm-hmm. So we can make a presentation based on what we have, get it to the national level, who can take it up. So the mode of communication is not established. That's why we're confused everywhere. So we need to understand. We need to educate our people to know their responsibilities and know where they're coming from.
A very valid point,
So
Albert.
this, I mean, not only for Kutubu. I am an LNG project landowner. So this is what's happening to our area in the Highland, Southern Highlands provinces. So one thing I think national government needs to work closely with the people. They are not now. The provincial government is not seen anywhere near. As you know, my experience with the people are concerned, we have not seen provincial government assisting the people now. So there's a bit of abuse and negligence on the part of the both national and provincial government. So people are left to do whatever they want to do. So that is a problem.
Okay.
More of this interview when we come back. You're with Resource PNG, continuing our interview with the former Southern Highlands Premier and signatory to the PDL2 MOA in the Moran oil fields, Albert Mokai. We find out about the lessons learned for newly established landowner companies in the Southern Highlands province.
Now, and you've had some time to actually reflect on the impact of the project or the various projects in the Southern Highlands. What do you think the lessons learned are for the newer established landowner companies?
Yeah, there is a huge negative impact left behind by the project, especially people's social life. We're not helping them to live a better life. You see, this country, if you look at it, we have civilized. So when you go back to most remote places like Lake Kutubu, or more beyond it, or in the upper parts of the Western province, you see people are living in most nomadic life, which means they're lacking everything. So we got to educate them, we got to make changes to their life so that they become a better persons, equal to us. But that's not happening. That's why I say national government and provincial government need to work with their people, and we are not putting a lot of pressure or emphasis on the present developer to do certain things which they are not obliged under any condition.
Now, Albert, you're a social worker by profession. You're a qualified social worker. What vision do you have for your community after the closure of these projects?
Yeah, I want my people to be changed. A good control on the situation on the ground, a control over our environment, people's financial income needs to be invested in a good businesses. Our people need to be educated, make good use of the monies coming in, convert it into education for our young people. I want our mothers to be healthy. A good, tangible health system, services to be established. A system that has to be managed by the appropriate authorities like provincial government. You cannot allow it to decay and make people suffer.
Do you think, Albert, there is a plan in place for this in your province?
Well, I believe provincial governments are established to look after their people. They should have better socio-economic development plans. And that will cater for people's interest. I cannot speak anything beyond that. I can only say my imagination is after 30 years, Hela should be a well-developed, should have well-developed socio-economic infrastructure. We should have at least high percentage of our population educated. And we should have better road networks, transportation systems. That's my dream. That's what our government need to do for the people. My observation now, right now, is that people are left loose. So they're going everywhere, knocking into every door. They don't know who they are meeting at the door. So, you see, this kind of a trend is developing because authorities are not there to guard their people.
Right.
Stay with their people. I wanted to see a good administration network established at district level, local level government, systems need to be functioning. That's where people's welfare needs are catered for.
At the district level and at the lower level.
At the lower level.
That's right.
So, I mean, as a former politician, I can see all these things not happening. So my dreams, it's just floating in the air. But I want some people to go and do things that we have dreamt about it. There is a way forward. That is to go down and work with the people. If you go up there, you're going to change the people's life 100%, 180 degrees turn around. So I see it's a little bit of a problem for our leaders to go and meet and mingle with their own people. But they should not let it go like that. They should look for certain ways to get in with their people, to stay with the people, live with the people, eat with the people. You know, in social works, we are taught to love the people, live with the people, eat with the people. So that's my profession. I do that. I may hate people, but I don't show that out.
Albert, thank you for your time today.
Okay, that's my pleasure.
Albert Mokai, former Premier for Southern Highlands Province and a signatory to the MOA that started the Kutubu Oil Project.
ANZ, that's coming up next. Thanks for staying with us. We now talk to Mark Couchman, Director Natural Resources, ANZ.
I have with me in the studio Mark Couchman, Director Natural Resources for ANZ. Mark, welcome.
Thanks, Sonia.
Mark, you recently highlighted 3 investment scenarios at a recent conference. Could you expand on those?
Yeah, so ANZ back in October of this year commissioned a report and released that to the market titled PNG in the Asia Century. That highlighted 3 particular areas of growth and opportunities for the PNG economy, which were agribusiness, natural resources, and the importance around investing in infrastructure to support both of those sectors. So this morning I spoke about what that meant for the resources sector. We highlighted in our analysis with Port Jackson Partners 3 scenarios. One, a low case scenario in terms of investment and revenue opportunity in resources from now to 2030. A central case and then a high case. The high case looked at a staggered over that 15-20 year period of all possible and potential resource projects coming to market and being successful. The low case assumed that the PNG LNG projects of trains 1 and 2 plus the Oktedi mine life expansion eventuating. Whereas the middle case, the central case, looked at a number of projects in addition to PNG LNG, expansions in PNG LNG, and other LNG projects coming online in that 15 to 20 year period. For mining, we in that central case, we're suggesting that gold production and gold revenues will stay fairly constant to where they currently are, but the big growth in mining will come from the developments of new base metal and copper projects such as Wafi Golpu, Yandera, Freda River.
Now, you also mentioned something about commodity price indicators for China.
Yeah, ANZ has a China Commodity Price Index, which is a tool that we look at in terms of looking at where China is travelling and where the demand is for commodities and China is very important given the sheer amount of demand and use in commodities that China has taken up in the last 5 years. What we've seen in the last 12 months is the China Commodity Index reduced by around about 25%, off obviously huge highs that we've seen in the last 10 years. So what our analysis is suggesting is that the last 10 years that the market has seen has been a price boom. What we are going to see, and this is going to be very relevant for the development of new projects in PNG over the next 10 years, is going to be a commodity-led, it is a productivity-led boom. Now, in order for a productivity-led boom to eventuate, mining companies right now need to really manage and aggressively manage their costs, and that's what we're seeing in the market right now.
Mark, can you just, maybe for our viewers' benefit, please just draw clearly what impact that commodity price index has on our industry here?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is really going to drive the demand for additional supply to come online over the next 3 to 5 years, and for PNG, PNG is well placed to meet that demand with some of those projects that I mentioned earlier around Wafi-Golpu, Yandera and Freda River. What I should note is things are also challenging for PNG to be able to attract that investment over that time horizon, whether it's in the next 5 to 10 years. As we look at costs today, PNG is around about in the 85th percentile in terms of costs on the gold cost curve. Right. So in terms of gold companies bringing down that cash cost, that's very relevant for PNG right now. And what investors will be looking at and mining companies in terms of investing new capital into new projects will be where those projects will be benchmarked on global commodity cost curves.
So Mark, what kind of policy and regulatory frameworks can PNG introduce or improve on to attract that investment?
Sure. So if you turn back to our ANZ Insights report on PNG in the Asian century, one piece of research that was conducted via the Fraser Institute polled a number of resource investors around the world. In that poll, PNG ranked 73rd in that particular index. Now, when those same resource investment survey participants were asked if there was best practice around land use restrictions and also policy arrangements, PNG's ranking moved from 73 to 3rd behind Mongolia and Canada.
Is that an improvement or not?
That therefore demonstrates the challenges and the opportunity that PNG is facing right now. We've seen, and I'm sure over the next 2 days, the government is well and truly in the process of revising and implementing new policy framework to the mining industry, but time will tell how effective that policy will be.
Have you had a look at that policy, or have you had any chance to research that or analyse it? Not in
any great detail. A lot of it is just in draft at this point in time, and as I understand, the government is still consulting mining industry as they should in relation to that.
More of this interview when we return. Welcome back to the show. Continuing our interview with Mark Couchman, Director of Natural Resources ANZ, we ask how resource companies can improve their competitiveness We also find out what the future looks like for PNG's export commodities.
So Mark, how can resource companies in PNG improve their competitiveness?
A lot of it comes down to managing the costs that are embedded within their current organisations. We've already heard this morning from a number of mining companies how they're going about managing that cost. Octeti, for instance, in their presentation suggested a number of initiatives whereby they're forecasting to reduce their overall costs in the vicinity of 25 to 30%. Another way is also via increasing throughput, and we've seen in Newcrest's presentation this morning, Lihir Island has had their Lihir Island operation has had a significant improvement in the last quarter in terms of its product throughput. So they're just a number of ways.
Okay. So what does the future look like for PNG's export commodities?
So for PNG, PNG is still regarded as a world-class country in terms of its resource potential. The next 3 to 5 years are where the country will need to overcome challenges in relation to being in terms of the challenges that I spoke of earlier around they need to compete for capital from a global pool of capital and competing countries in gold and copper in terms of new project development. So if you look in the case of copper, our research and that of Wood Mackenzie suggest in 2017 there's going to be an undersupply of copper in the global market. Now there are a number of ways in which that supply can be met. Obviously via new mine production, substitution of metals, but also an increase in the use of scrap copper. So for PNG, certainly the opportunity is around the new mine developments that I spoke about earlier, mines such as Frida River, Wafi-Golpu and Yandera amongst others.
So what have you to say to companies that are considering investing here in the resource sector? What should they take into consideration?
PNG is certainly a rewarding country to invest in, but as I've outlined, it's a country that also has its challenges. My advice is similar to investing in other parts of the world. Make sure you partner up with good stakeholders, whether it's companies that have been on the ground in PNG for many years, partnering up with landowner groups, communities, governments, because I think if you get that right, you'll see a successful investment over time.
Thank you for your time today, Mark.
Thank you.
Mark Couchman, Director, Natural Resources, ANZ.
We'll be back with more after the break. You're watching Resource PNG. In this next segment, we feature a report that looks at the falling mineral commodity prices. It is widely perceived that LNG is now the big game player in the resource sector of PNG in the next 5 to 10 years. However, this doesn't mean that PNG will navigate away from mineral commodities such as gold and copper. According to Mark Couchman, Director of Natural Resources ANZ, gold will still be costive, but the boom in the mineral sector will now shift to copper and other metals driven by global demand. Forecasts also say that ongoing growth in the resource sector will also depend on PNG's ability to compete with other countries in terms of resource sector production.
What we can see is certainly LNG is going to be the big game changer in the next 5 to 10 years.
From the macroeconomic view, Mark Couchman highlights different reasons for the drop in mineral commodity prices. One of the reasons highlighted is the declining global GDP. However, from forecasts, global GDP is expected to grow to 4% in 2015.
For the macroeconomic view, and you know, the real key reason around the dropping in commodity prices over the last little while, as you can see on the left-hand chart here, has been global GDP declining. So we at ANZ forecasting that will bottom this year, and then you're likely to see come second half of next year come up to 3.5%, and by 2015 up to 4% GDP growth. We get a lot of research out of China. The orange line here is ANZ's China Commodity Index, and that's an index around commodity prices, being a weighted index of commodity prices in China. What we can see here is that in June we saw commodity prices bottom, but I think fair to say in terms of what the leading indicator here is suggesting, which is the inventory pulse indicator, is that we're unlikely to see large price gains in the immediate term.
Mineral commodity prices have fallen back due to the slowdown in demand, specifically from countries like China. Furthermore, it is also forecasted that the next 10 years will see a reverse in mineral commodity prices.
China Commodity Index on this chart here, and the trajectory is actually very consistent with where we've seen mining costs over the past 10 years, as China's demand for commodities has increased, as has the supply, and new projects have come on. So in the last 12 months, however, you can see that China Commodity Index coming off some 25% in that time. And interestingly, you've seen mining costs come up some 3 times in the last 10 years. So in terms of the future for copper, and I think this bodes very well for a number of copper projects that are looking to be developed in PNG in the next 3 to 5 years. What you can see from the graph here, we've actually just mapped. This comes from Wood Mackenzie, but in the blue shading here, this is the available probable supply coming on over this period of time, which suggests a huge increase, which is a challenge in itself. And then the line here is the demand for mine production capability over that time. But interestingly, in 2017, this is where this is breached in terms of the demand side, and the question that it remains is where will that additional supply where is that going to come from?
Changes in gold price have led to a supply response. According to Mark Couchman, this is caused by a number of reasons. In response to this, companies have been urged to grip on how to manage costs. Moreover, just like any other country, PNG has also suffered from falling prices of its commodities, for instance gold.
In the next 10 years, you're going to see the reverse. You're not going to see the large increases in commodity prices, but what you are going to see is productivity-led boom.
According to Mark Couchman in 2017, meeting the demand for mineral commodities will have to come from opening of new mines, recycled metals, and increasingly substitutions.
I thought it was worthwhile just outlining a number of themes that I think are going to play out in the mining sector over the next 3 to 5 years, and we're starting to see that right now, and all of which are applicable to PNG. So certainly gold plating is out as mining companies revisit feasibility studies for projects with much lower capital costs. Bigger is no longer better. Investors, mining companies are looking for much more de-risked, lower capital solutions.
As mining companies revisit feasibility studies for projects with much lower capital costs, according to Mark Couchman, bigger is no longer better, as companies are now interested in lowering operational costs and maximizing profit. That ends Resource PNG. If you have any comments or queries, do email us on this address, resourcepng@mtv.com.pg. Or to find out more, check MTV online. That's www.mtv.com.pg, and go to our Resource PNG page. Or you can check our page on Facebook. Thanks for your company. Bye for now.